How did I end up here? In the penthouse suite of the most dangerous man in the city, wearing his shirt, drinking his coffee, and pretending that this, whatever this is, isn't the most reckless thing I've ever done? I didn't know it was his club. I didn't know a lot of things back then. My best friend Maya had been begging me for weeks to go out. You need to live a little, she kept saying. You're 26 years old and you act like you're 40. She wasn't wrong. After my ex, after that whole disaster of a relationship that left me questioning every decision I'd ever made, I'd basically become a hermit. Work home, work home. My life had shrunk down to the size of my studio apartment and my desk at the marketing firm. But that Friday something shifted. Maybe it was the way the spring air felt that evening, or maybe I was just tired of my own company. I said yes. The club was called Obsidian. Even the name should have been a clue, right? Dark, impenetrable, valuable. We waited in line for 40 minutes, which Maya swore was worth it. Trust me, she said, touching up her lipstick in her phone camera. This place is incredible. And the owner apparently never lets anyone wait. If you're in line, it's because he allows it. I remember thinking that was a weird thing to say. Who talks about a club owner like that? We got inside and I understood. The place was gorgeous. All dark wood and amber lighting, leather booths that probably cost more than my car, and a crowd that looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Everyone was beautiful. Everyone was confident. And I was, me. In my best dress, sure, but still me. Still the girl who'd rather curl up with a book than navigate a room full of strangers. Maya immediately spotted some people she knew, and within minutes, we were absorbed into a group at one of those expensive booths. There was champagne. Actual champagne, not Prosecco. Someone ordered bottle service like it was nothing. I nursed one glass for 30 minutes, feeling out of place but also curious. Watching. That's when I saw him. He was across the club, elevated in a private section that overlooked the main floor. Even from a distance he commanded attention. Dark hair, sharp suit, and this presence that made everyone around him seem smaller somehow. People approached him constantly. A word here, a nod there, quick conversations that ended when he decided they ended. Who is that? I asked Maya, leaning close so she could hear me over the music. She followed my gaze and her eyes went wide. That's Dominic Castellano. He owns this place. Among other things. The way she said other things made my stomach twist with something between intrigue and warning. What other things? Maya gave me a look. Sweetheart, you don't ask questions like that about men like him. You just admire from afar and stay out of his orbit. Good advice, really. Solid advice. Obviously, I didn't take it. It was an accident. Completely, genuinely an accident. I needed air. The club was packed hot, and the champagne had gone to my head faster than I'd expected. I told Maya I was going to find the bathroom and maybe step outside for a minute. I found a hallway that looked promising. Quieter, dimmer, leading away from the chaos of the main floor. There were doors marked with discreet signs. Offices, storage, private areas. I walked past all of them looking for an exit sign, and that's when I heard the sound. Glass breaking. A muffled shout. Then silence. I should have turned around. Every instinct I had screamed at me to walk away, to go back to the safety of the crowd. But there's this part of me, this stupid, curious part that always needs to know. That can't leave well enough alone. I moved toward the sound. There was a door slightly ajar at the end of the hall, light spilling out. Voices now low and tense. I don't care about your excuses, Marcus. I care about my money. The voice was calm. Controlled. Somehow that made it more frightening than if he'd been yelling. Mr. Castellano, please, I just need more time. You've had time. Months of it. My patience isn't infinite. I froze. This was clearly not a conversation I should be hearing. I started to back away, and that's when my heel, my stupid, impractical heel that Maya had convinced me to wear, caught on the edge of a floor mat. The sound I made wasn't loud. Just a small gasp, a slight stumble. But in that hallway, in that moment, it was everything. The voices stopped. Footsteps approached the door. Fast. And then he was there. Dominic Castellano. Up close he was even more devastating. Dark eyes that seemed to see straight through you, a jaw that could have been carved from marble, and an expression of cold assessment that made my blood run cold. Who are you? Not aggressive. Just a question. But the weight behind it made me feel like my answer would determine something important. I'm sorry. I got lost. Looking for the bathroom. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. He studied me for a long moment. Behind him I could see another man in an expensive suit and someone else, Marcus I presumed, looking pale and terrified. The bathrooms are in the opposite direction. He stepped fully into the hallway and I became aware of how much space he took up. Not physically, though he was tall and broad-shouldered. It was something else. An energy that made the air feel thinner. Right. Of course. I turned to leave. Wait. I stopped. Why did I stop? I should have run. He moved closer and I caught his scent. Something expensive and woody, cedar maybe mixed with whiskey. What's your name? Ella. Ella Moretti. Something flickered in his expression. Moretti. Italian. My grandfather. I never knew him. And you come to my club, walk down private hallways and stumble into conversations that don't concern you. Still that calm tone. Careless or curious? Both, I said before I could stop myself. Apparently. And then he smiled. Just a slight curve of his mouth, but it transformed his face entirely. Honest. I like that. He glanced back into the room, then returned his attention to me. Go back to your friends, Ella Moretti. Stay out of hallways you don't belong in. It was a dismissal. Clear and final. I should have been grateful. Instead, I felt oddly disappointed. I made it 3 steps before he spoke again. And Ella. I turned back. If anyone asks what you heard tonight, you tell them nothing. Because you heard nothing. Understood. There was no threat in his voice. He didn't need to threaten. The implication was clear enough. Understood. I walked back to the main floor on shaking legs, found Maya and told her I wanted to leave. She protested, but something in my face made her agree. We were in a cab 5 minutes later. That should have been the end of it. One strange encounter, a story to tell over wine, a near miss with something dangerous. But it wasn't the end. It was barely the beginning. I didn't expect to see him again. Why would I? He was a club owner with clearly questionable business dealings, and I was a marketing coordinator who spent most of her time crafting social media campaigns for organic skincare products. Our worlds didn't overlap. But then flowers arrived at my office on Monday. Dark red roses, almost black in the right light. No card, no name. Just an obscene number of roses in a crystal vase that probably cost more than my rent. My coworker Jennifer practically swooned. Secret admirer? She asked, hovering at my desk. I didn't know what to think. It felt like a message, but I couldn't decode it. Tuesday, more flowers. Different this time. White lilies, elegant and somehow ominous. Still no card. Wednesday, I came home to find a package at my door. Inside, a first edition of my favorite novel, The Great Gatsby, with a simple note tucked into the pages. You strike me as someone who appreciates beautiful things. D. My hands shook as I held it. How did he know where I worked? Where I lived? What my favorite book was? I should have been terrified. Maybe I was a little. But I was also fascinated. No one had ever pursued me like this. Not pursued, that wasn't the right word. Studied. Like I was a puzzle he intended to solve. On Thursday my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. Ella Moretti. That voice. Smooth as aged whiskey. I hope you've been enjoying my gifts. How did you get my number? I get most things I want. Your number was easy. I should have hung up. Should have blocked him. Should have done so many things differently. The flowers are beautiful, I said instead. The book is too much. Nothing is too much for someone interesting. And you, Ella, are very interesting. You don't know me. Not yet. But I'd like to. Have dinner with me. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? He sounded genuinely curious. Because, I struggled for words. Because you're you and I'm me, and those two things don't make sense together. Humor me. One dinner. If you're not intrigued by the end of it, I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again. I said yes. God help me, I said yes. He picked me up on Saturday evening. Not at my apartment. I wasn't ready for that level of vulnerability yet, but at a cafe 2 blocks away. When I saw the car pull up, I almost laughed. Of course it was a black town car with a driver. Of course. But then Dominic stepped out and I forgot about the car entirely. He wore dark slacks and a charcoal shirt, no tie, the top button undone. Casual for him probably, but it looked effortlessly expensive. His eyes swept over me. I'd chosen a simple black dress, nothing flashy, and he smiled that devastating smile. You look beautiful. You look dangerous. He laughed, genuine and warm. Honest again. Good. The restaurant wasn't what I expected. I'd imagined somewhere ostentatious, showy, a place where you pay for the name as much as the food. Instead, we went to a small Italian place in the North End, tucked away on a side street. The kind of place you'd only know about if you were a local. My grandmother used to bring me here, he explained as we settled into a corner booth. Every Sunday after church. The owner's son runs it now, but the recipes are all hers. It was such a normal thing to say. Such a human detail. It disarmed me completely. We talked for hours. He asked about my work, my family, my dreams. I found myself telling him things I barely admitted to myself. How I'd always wanted to write but was too scared to try, how I felt stuck in a life that looked good on paper but felt empty, how I was lonely even when I was surrounded by people. He listened. Really listened. Not just waiting for his turn to talk but absorbing every word like it mattered. And what about you? Finally asked. What does Dominic Castellano dream about? His expression shifted, became more guarded. I stopped dreaming a long time ago. Dreams are liabilities in my world. What world is that exactly? He studied me across the table. You really want to know? I really want you to be honest with me. I run an organization, he said carefully. Import-export logistics. Some of it's perfectly legal. Some of it exists in gray areas. I've made a lot of money and I've made a lot of enemies. I keep what's mine and I don't forgive debts. Like Marcus. He didn't seem surprised, I remembered. Like Marcus. He owed money. Borrowed from people he shouldn't have borrowed from. I gave him chances. He wasted them. What happened to him? He paid. Eventually. Everyone pays, Ella. One way or another. I should have gotten up. Made an excuse, called a cab, removed myself from whatever this was. But I didn't. Because underneath the dangerous truth I saw something else. Loneliness. Isolation. A man surrounded by people who feared him, served him, used him, but no one who really knew him. Why me? I asked. You could have anyone. Why are you interested in me? He leaned forward and the intensity in his eyes stole my breath. Because when you stumbled into that hallway, you looked at me like I was a person. Not a name, not a reputation, not a means to an end. Just a man. Do you know how rare that is in my life? And that's when I knew I was in trouble. Real trouble. Because I was falling for a man who lived in shadows, and I was all sunlight and hopes and stupid, reckless optimism. He drove me home himself that night. Walked me to my building's entrance. Didn't try to come up, didn't ask for more than he'd been given. Can I see you again? He asked. Yes, I said. Because what else could I say? The truth? That I was already thinking about him every moment? That I'd never felt this alive? He kissed my hand. An old-fashioned gesture that should have felt ridiculous but instead felt perfect. Good night, Ella. I watched him drive away and I knew. This was either going to be the best thing that ever happened to me or it would destroy me completely. Turns out it was both. The next few weeks were a fever dream. Dominic pursued me with the same intensity he probably applied to everything in his life. Dinners at hidden restaurants, late-night phone calls that stretched until dawn, unexpected visits to my office with coffee and pastries from my favorite bakery. He was attentive in ways I'd never experienced. He remembered everything. The offhand comment I'd made about loving old bookstores, the mention of my mother's birthday, the fact that I had a weakness for terrible reality TV shows. One night he showed up at my apartment with takeout and a willingness to watch 3 episodes of Love Island without complaint. "This is ridiculous," he said, watching 2 contestants argue about absolutely nothing. "It's art," I countered, stealing one of his dumplings. "It's brain rot. You're watching it. I'm watching you watch it. That's different." And he was. Every time I glanced over, his eyes were on me, not the screen. Like I was the most fascinating thing in the room. Maya was worried. She'd pull me aside, give me those concerned looks. "I'll be careful. Men like him don't do relationships. They do possessions. You don't know him. Neither do you." "Not really." But I felt like I did. In the quiet moments between the intensity when it was just us, he'd let his guard down. He told me about his childhood, growing up in Brooklyn, watching his father build an empire, learning young that the world was divided into those who took and those who got taken from. He told me about his mother, who died when he was 16, and how he'd never quite forgiven his father for not being there at the end. "He was handling business," Dominic said, staring into his whiskey one night. "We were at his penthouse, jazz playing softly in the background. Someone had betrayed him, stolen from him. He was teaching them a lesson. And while he was doing that, she was dying in a hospital bed, asking for him. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me something important. Nothing matters more than the people you choose to love. Nothing. Not money, not reputation, not revenge." I swore I'd never make his mistake. He looked at me then, and the weight of that gaze made my heart race. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I'm choosing you, Ella. If you'll let me." I kissed him. Right there, with the city lights glittering beyond his windows and the future uncertain and terrifying. I kissed him because I was choosing him too, despite every logical objection my brain was screaming. That night I stayed. And the morning after. And the morning after that. I fell into his world like Alice down the rabbit hole. Suddenly I was attending gallery openings where everyone knew his name, having dinner with business associates who spoke in careful code, being driven everywhere by his security team. It was intoxicating and overwhelming in equal measure. But there were rules. Unspoken at first, then gradually made clear. I didn't ask about his business meetings. I didn't push when he left abruptly to handle situations. I didn't question the men who were always nearby, watching, protecting. I existed in the space he created for me, beautiful and safe and entirely separate from the darker parts of his life. "I want to protect you," he'd say when I'd start to question. "The less you know, the safer you are." It should have bothered me more than it did. This compartmentalization, this half-truth existence. But I was too drunk on him to care. Too in love. His love. I was in love with him. Completely, recklessly, catastrophically in love. The first crack appeared 2 months in. We were supposed to have dinner. Our Tuesday tradition, as regular as he could make anything in his unpredictable life. But he canceled last minute. Text message, brief and apologetic. "Something came up. I'll make it up to you." It wasn't the cancellation that bothered me. I understood he had responsibilities. It was what happened after. I was home alone, mindlessly scrolling through news on my phone when I saw the headline, "Warehouse Fire in Red Hook Under Investigation. Possible Arson." The article was sparse on details, but it mentioned the warehouse belonged to a shipping company with alleged ties to organized crime. And there, buried in the 3rd paragraph, was a name I recognized. Castellano Logistics. My blood went cold. I called him immediately. It went to voicemail. I called again. Same result. By the third call, I was pacing my apartment, anxiety clawing at my chest. He finally called back at 2 a.m. I'd fallen asleep on the couch, phone clutched in my hand. Ella. His voice was tired, strained. Are you okay? I saw the news about the fire. I'm fine. It's handled. Handled? Dominic, they're saying it might be arson. They mentioned your company. Ella. Sharper now. I said it's handled. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. How can I not worry when? Because I'm asking you not to. Pause. Then softer, please. Trust me. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But trust is built on honesty, and I was starting to realize how much he kept from me. I need to see you, I said. Tomorrow. I promise. I just need to finish some things. He hung up before I could respond. The next day he showed up at my door with flowers and apologies. He looked exhausted, shadows under his eyes, tension in his shoulders. But he smiled when he saw me, and I let myself be pulled into his arms. I'm sorry about last night, he murmured into my hair. I never want you to worry about me. That's what people do when they care about someone. They worry. He pulled back, cupped my face in his hands. I know. I'm not good at this, Ella. At letting someone in. At being accountable to anyone but myself. Then learn. With me. He kissed me instead of answering. And like always, I let myself get lost in him, in us, in the fiction that we could make this work. But the cracks kept appearing. Small at first. A man who looked at me with too much interest at one of Dominic's business dinners, earning him a quiet word from Dominic and a sudden exit. A phone conversation I partially overheard, Dominic's voice cold and commanding. I don't care if he has a family. He knew the terms. Then there was the night I couldn't sleep, wandered into his home office looking for him and found him cleaning a gun. Just sitting there, methodically disassembling it, checking each part, reassembling it with the ease of long practice. He looked up when I entered, no surprise in his expression. Like he'd known I was there the whole time. Can't sleep? He asked, setting the gun aside. Why do you have that? Protection. Have you ever used it? Yes. One word. Simple and devastating. On someone. Ella. Have you killed someone, Dominic? He stood, moved toward me. I held my ground. Yes, he said again. I have. In this life it's kill or be killed sometimes. I chose to live. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath me. How many? Does it matter? Yes. Why? Would a number make you feel better? Would knowing exact details change what you already suspect about me? His voice was hard now, defensive. You knew what I was, Ella. From the beginning. I never lied to you about the darkness in my life. You never told me the full truth either. Because I was trying to protect you. Do you think I want you carrying this weight? Knowing these things? You deserve better than this world, than me. Don't. I cut him off, tears streaming down my face now. Don't you dare make decisions for me. Don't you dare tell me what I deserve. If we're going to do this, if we're going to be together, I need honesty. Complete honesty. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he sank into his chair, ran his hands through his hair and began to talk. He told me everything. How his father's organization had become his when the old man died 5 years ago. How he'd inherited enemies, debts, loyalties and betrayals all tangled together. How he'd done things, terrible things, to maintain control, to keep his people safe, to survive. He told me about the violence, yes, but also about the impossible choices. The people he employed, hundreds of them, whose families depended on the money he provided. The neighborhoods he protected from worse predators. The rules he enforced that, while harsh, prevented even more bloodshed. I'm not a good man, he said finally. I don't pretend to be. But I'm trying to be better than my father was. Trying to build something that might become legitimate someday. It's a slow process. Dangerous. And I understand if it's too much. If what's too much? He looked up at me, vulnerability naked in his eyes. Me. All of this. I understand if you want to walk away. I moved to him, knelt down so we were eye level. I should walk away. Every rational part of my brain is screaming at me to run. But I can't, Dominic. Because somewhere along the way I fell in love with you. And I don't know how to unfall. His eyes widened. You love me? Unfortunately, yes. He pulled me to him, held me so tight I could barely breathe. I love you too, he whispered. God help me, I love you too. We stayed like that, wrapped in each other, knowing we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross. Whatever happened now, we were bound together. For better or worse. After that night, something shifted between us. The secrets were out, the walls were down. We were exposed to each other in a way that was both terrifying and exhilarating. Dominic tried to keep me separate from his work, but I pushed back. If I'm in your life, I'm in your life. All of it. He didn't like it, but he compromised. I started attending more meetings, not as a participant but as his partner. Silent, observant, learning the dynamics of his world. The men who respected him, feared him, or plotted against him. The delicate balance of power he maintained. And I started to understand. This wasn't just crime for crime's sake. It was business, brutal and pragmatic. Dominic was trying to transition into legitimacy. Investments in real estate, restaurants, logistics companies that were actually legal. But the old world wouldn't let go easily. It takes time, he explained one evening. We were in his penthouse, him working through paperwork, me curled up on his couch reading. Every legal dollar I make weakens the hold of the illegal operations. But I can't just walk away. Too many people depend on me. Too many enemies would see it as weakness. So what's the end game? 5 years. Maybe 10. Enough legal income that I can walk away from the rest. Retire the old guard. Become what my mother always wanted me to be. A businessman, not a criminal. And then... He looked up at me, something soft in his expression. And then maybe I can give you the life you deserve. The normal one. We fell into a rhythm. I kept my job, insisted on it, actually needing some part of my life that was mine alone. But my evenings were his. Our evenings. We'd cook together in his massive kitchen, him surprisingly adept with a knife. We'd watch movies, argue about books, make love like we were trying to consume each other whole. He taught me things. How to read people, really read them. How to play poker, which I was terrible at. How to shoot, which terrified me but he insisted was necessary. I need to know you can protect yourself if I'm not there. I taught him things too. How to relax, really relax. How to laugh at himself. How to exist in a moment without calculating 3 moves ahead. You make me softer, he said one night, almost accusingly. Is that a bad thing? It could be. In my world, soft gets you killed. Then maybe it's time to find a new world. He kissed me instead of answering. Always deflecting when the conversation got too close to the future. What if I don't want normal? He smiled. What do you want? You. Just you. In whatever form that takes. It was bound to happen eventually. Happiness that bright, that intense. It attracts attention. And not all attention is good. His name was Viktor Sokolov. Russian old guard, someone Dominic had described as a dinosaur who refuses to accept the meteor has already hit. They had history, territorial disputes, disagreements about how business should be conducted, the kind of grudges that fester over years. I first heard about him at a dinner. One of Dominic's associates, Marco, mentioned him in passing. The tension at the table was immediate. What about Sokolov? Dominic asked, his voice carefully neutral. He's been asking questions. About your operations. About your personal life. Dominic's hand tightened on his wine glass. What kind of questions? Marco's eyes flicked to me then away. About who you're spending time with. The meaning was clear. Victor was interested in me. And in Dominic's world, interest from an enemy meant danger. Increase security, Dominic said. I want someone on her at all times. I don't need a babysitter, I protested. This isn't negotiable. His tone left no room for argument. Within hours I had a shadow. A polite but intimidating man named James who followed me everywhere. To work, to lunch, to the grocery store. It was suffocating. But Dominic was unrelenting. Until I handle this situation with Victor, you stay protected. I won't risk you. And how are you going to handle it? You don't need to know the details. We'd fought about it. Actually fought, raised voices and slammed doors, and the first real crack in our carefully maintained balance. I'm not a child. I'd shouted. Stop treating me like I need to be sheltered from reality. I'm treating you like someone I love. Someone whose safety matters more than your pride. It's not about pride. It's about trust. Either we're partners in this or I'm just an accessory you keep locked away. He'd stared at me, breathing hard, jaw clenched. Then he'd walked out. Just left me standing there, angry and scared and unsure of everything. He came back 3 hours later. Sat down beside me, took my hands in his. You're right, he said quietly. You deserve to know. Victor is threatening to hurt you to get to me. To prove that I've become weak, that caring about someone makes me vulnerable. And he's not wrong. You are my weakness, Ella. The only one that matters. So what do? I meet with him. Try to negotiate. If that doesn't work. He trailed off. If that doesn't work, you kill him. He didn't deny it. Voice becomes quieter, more intense. The meeting was set for the following week. Dominic was tense, distracted, spending long hours with his most trusted people planning for every contingency. I barely saw him. The night before the meeting, he came to my apartment. Not his penthouse. My small, ordinary apartment that suddenly felt like a sanctuary. Stay here tomorrow, he said. Don't go anywhere. James will be outside. If anything happens. Nothing's going to happen. If anything happens, he continued, there's an envelope in your nightstand. Money, documents, contacts. Enough to disappear if you need to. My blood went cold. Dominic. Promise me. If this goes wrong, if I don't come back, you promise me you'll take that envelope and you'll run. Don't try to help me, don't try to avenge me, just run and don't look back. I can't promise that. Ella. I can't. Do you understand? I can't just run from you, from this. We're in it together. For better or worse, remember. He pulled me to him and I felt him shaking. Actually shaking. This man who faced down criminals and made life or death decisions without flinching was terrified. I can't lose you, he whispered. Then don't. Come back to me. We spent that night wrapped in each other, not sleeping, not talking much. Just holding on. The next day was the longest of my life. Dominic left at dawn. One kiss, fierce and desperate, and then he was gone. James was outside my door and I was alone with my thoughts. I tried to distract myself. Work, emails, cleaning, anything. But every sound made me jump. Every notification on my phone sent my heart racing. At 2 p.m. Maya called. Hey, want to grab coffee? You sound like you need it. I did. God, I really did. I can't. I have to stay home today. Why? Are you sick? Something like that. Oh, what's going on? You've been weird for weeks. Ever since you started seeing that guy. Maya, I promise I'll explain everything soon. Just, not today, okay? She wasn't happy, but she let it go. I spent the rest of the afternoon pacing, staring at my phone, willing it to ring. At 6 p.m. it finally did. Unknown number. Hello. Ella Moretti. The voice was accented, cold. Not Dominic. My name is Victor Sokolov. I believe you know who I am. My mouth went dry. What do you want? To talk. About your boyfriend. About his future. About yours. I have nothing to say to you. But I have much to say to you. Dominic is at my warehouse right now. We are negotiating. But negotiations go better when all parties have motivation. So I think you should join us. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then perhaps I come to you. I know where you live, Ella Moretti. 3rd floor, apartment 3C. Pretty building. Very flammable. Terror seized my chest. If you hurt me, Dominic will kill me. Yes, probably. But not before I hurt you. And that is a pain he will carry forever. Which is precisely the point. The line went dead. I stood there frozen trying to think. James was outside. I could tell him and he'd call Dominic's people and they'd handle it. But what if that escalated things? What if Victor made good on his threat? My phone rang again. This time it was Dominic. Oh, thank God. Listen to me very carefully. Victor just called me. Silence. Then, what did he say? He wants me to come to the warehouse. He threatened my building. Do not move. Do you hear me? Stay exactly where you are. I'm ending this right now. Dominic, wait. But he'd already hung up. I couldn't just sit there. Couldn't wait while the man I loved walked into even more danger because of me. I was the leverage Victor wanted. I was the weapon he planned to use against Dominic. And suddenly I had an idea. A terrible, reckless, probably stupid idea. But it was the only one I had. I grabbed my phone, my keys, and the envelope Dominic had hidden in my nightstand. Then I went to my closet and pulled out the gun he'd given me. The one I'd learned to shoot at his insistence. It felt heavy and foreign in my hands. James was outside my door just as Dominic had promised. James, I said, keeping my voice calm. I need you to come inside for a second. There's something wrong with my window lock. He hesitated, clearly torn between his post and helping me. Miss Moretti, I should stay here. Please. It'll just take a second. I'm worried about security. He sighed and followed me inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, I moved behind him and pressed the gun to his back. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I'm so sorry, I whispered. Give me your phone. And your keys. Miss Moretti, what are you doing? Something incredibly stupid. Phone and keys. Now. He complied slowly, his training telling him not to escalate with a panicked civilian holding a weapon. Mr. Castellano will kill me if anything happens to you. Then you'd better hope nothing does. Bathroom. Now. I locked him in, grabbed his phone before he could call for help and ran. Down the stairs, out the back entrance into the street. I hailed a cab, gave him the address of Victor's warehouse that I'd heard mentioned in Dominic's phone call. The driver kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. I probably looked insane, wild-eyed, pale, clutching a purse that had a gun inside it. You okay, miss? Fine. Just late for something important. The warehouse was in Red Hook, down by the docks. Gray and looming, exactly the kind of place where bad things happened. There were cars outside, expensive ones. Men standing guard at the entrance. I paid the driver, got out and walked straight toward them. I'm Ella Moretti, I said, voice steadier than I felt. Victor is expecting me. They exchanged looks. One of them spoke into a radio. A moment later he nodded. Come with us. They didn't search me. Didn't check for weapons. Why would they? I was just a girl. Just leverage. Just the soft spot in Dominic Castellano's armor. They led me inside through corridors that smelled of oil and rust into a large open space. And there in the center was Dominic. He was surrounded by Victor's men but standing tall. Defiant. When he saw me, the color drained from his face. Ella, what the hell are you doing here? Before I could answer, Victor emerged from the shadows. He was older than I expected, maybe 60, with silver hair and cruel eyes. He smiled when he saw me. Ah, the girlfriend. Even more beautiful than my sources indicated. And so brave, walking right into danger. Let him go, I said. You want leverage? You have it. I'm here. Let him go. Victor laughed. You misunderstand the situation, my dear. I don't want leverage. I want to teach a lesson. About what happens when men like Dominic forget their place. When they think they can go soft, have families, love. He spat the last word like it was poison. Ella, leave, Dominic said, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. Right now. I can't. Yes, you can. Walk out that door. This doesn't concern you. It concerns me because you concern me. I turned to Victor. What do you want? Really? Because this isn't about territory or money. This is about ego. His smile faded. Careful, girl. You want to prove that Dominic is weak because he loves me. That caring about someone makes him vulnerable. But you're wrong. You know what makes someone weak? Being alone. Having no one willing to walk into danger for you. Having no one to fight for. Dominic has something you never will. Someone who chooses him. Not because of fear or money or power, but because of who he is. And you can hurt me, you can hurt him, but you can't take that away. Love isn't weakness. It's the only thing that makes us strong enough to survive this brutal world. The warehouse was silent. Victor stared at me, something unreadable in his expression. Then he started clapping. Slow, mocking applause. Quite the speech. Very moving. But speeches don't stop bullets, Miss Moretti. He pulled a gun from his jacket. I saw it happening as if in slow motion. Victor raising the weapon. Dominic lunging forward trying to reach me. Victor's men moving to block him. And I realized in that crystalline moment that I had a choice. I could freeze. Could be the victim everyone expected me to be. Could let this man prove his point about love and weakness. Or I could prove my own point. I pulled the gun from my purse and aimed it at Victor. My hands were steady now. Everything was clear. Drop it, I said. Victor paused, genuinely surprised. You won't shoot me. Won't I? You threatened to burn down my building. To hurt me to get to the man I love. You think I'm some fragile thing that's going to break. I took a step closer. I'm not the weakness in Dominic's life. I'm his reason to be ruthless. To protect what's his. And right now I'm pretty sure I could pull this trigger and not lose a moment of sleep. Ella. Dominic's voice soft. Not a command. A plea. Don't do this. Don't become what I am. Please. I kept my eyes on Victor. Will you leave us alone? Will you stop this vendetta? Victor studied me, then looked at Dominic. Something shifted in his expression. Respect maybe. Or just calculation. You choose interesting women, Castellano. I will give you that. He slowly lowered his gun. Perhaps I underestimated the situation. Perhaps. Love does make you more dangerous, not less. He signaled to his men. They stood down. But understand this, Victor continued. I am showing mercy today. Not because I am weak. Because I recognize strength when I see it. And both of you. Do not make me regret this decision. He walked past me, paused. You have fire, girl. Dominic is lucky man. And then he was gone. His men following. The warehouse emptying. Leaving just Dominic and me. For a moment we just stood there. The gun still in my hand, my entire body starting to shake with the adrenaline crash. Then Dominic was there, pulling me against him, his hands in my hair, his voice broken. You could have been killed. You could have. Ella, what were you thinking? I was thinking I couldn't lose you. So you risked yourself? Walked into a warehouse full of armed men? Pulled a gun on one of the most dangerous men in this city? Yes. I pulled back, looked at him. Yes, because that's what you do when you love someone. You fight for them. You risk for them. You told me love was your weakness, but you were wrong. Love is what made me strong enough to do that. He stared at me and I saw it. The moment something fundamental shifted in how he saw me. Not as something fragile to protect, but as an equal. A partner. Someone who chose this life with full knowledge of what it meant. I'm so angry with you right now, he said. I know. And so terrified of what could have happened. I know. And so completely, devastatingly in love with you. I know. He kissed me then. Hard and desperate and full of everything we couldn't say. When we finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead to mine. We need to leave. No. Victor may have backed down, but his men saw what happened. Word will spread. Every enemy I have will know about you now. Then we deal with it. Together. Together, he agreed. But first we're having a very long conversation about you pulling guns on Russian mobsters. Fair. The weeks that followed were complicated. Word did spread about what happened at the warehouse. About the girlfriend who walked into danger and stared down Viktor Sokolov. Some saw it as recklessness. Others as strength. Dominik's world had to adjust. I was no longer the soft civilian on the periphery. I was in it. Really in it. That meant security measures, protocol, being aware of threats. It meant learning to live with danger as a constant companion. It also meant respect. The men in Dominik's organization looked at me differently now. Not as a liability, but as someone who'd proven themselves. Marco started including me in strategic conversations. Even James, who I'd locked in a bathroom, grudgingly admitted I had nerve. My old life didn't fit anymore. I tried to maintain it, going to work, seeing Maya, pretending everything was normal. But it wasn't. I'd crossed a line and there was no going back. Maya confronted me eventually. Showed up at my apartment with wine and determination. Okay, she said, settling onto my couch. Tell me everything. And I mean everything. So I did. About Dominik, about his world, about what happened at the warehouse. She listened without interrupting, her expression cycling through shock, horror, and disbelief. You pulled a gun on a mobster, she said finally. Yes. To save your mob boss boyfriend. Yes. Ella. Oh. What are you doing with your life? Honestly, I have no idea. But I'm doing it with someone I love. Someone who loves me back. Someone who makes me feel more alive than I've ever felt. That's not enough when you're getting shot at. Maybe not. But it's enough for me. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, is he good to you? Does he treat you well? Better than anyone ever has. And you're happy? Actually happy. I'm terrified most of the time. But yes. I'm happy. She sighed, poured us both more wine. Then I guess I'm here for you. Even though this is insane. Even though I think you've lost your mind. I'm here. Thank you. But if he hurts you, mob boss or not, I'm coming for him with a baseball bat. I laughed and it felt good. Normal. Like maybe I could have both worlds. The dangerous one with Dominik and the normal one with friends who cared. 6 months after the warehouse incident, things had settled into a new rhythm. Dominik was making progress on his exit strategy. More legitimate businesses, fewer illegal operations. It was slow, dangerous work, but he was committed. We'd moved in together officially. Not his penthouse. That was too exposed, too much a symbol of his old life. Instead, we found a townhouse in Brooklyn. Quiet, residential, with good security but not ostentatious. I quit my job. It was time. I couldn't keep pretending to be a normal marketing coordinator when I was helping Dominik plan legitimate business expansions and navigate the minefield of his world. Instead, I started consulting for his companies. Using my skills where they actually mattered. It was domestic in a way I never expected. Cooking together. Arguing about furniture. Building something that felt like a real life. One Saturday morning, I woke up to find him already awake, watching me. What? I asked, stretching. Marry me. I froze. What? Marry me, Ella. Make this official. Make us official. That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. He laughed, reached into the nightstand and pulled out a box. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. Marry me, he said again. Because I love you. Because you walked into a warehouse full of armed men for me. Because you make me want to be better. Because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Because when I wake up every morning and see you next to me, I remember why I'm fighting so hard to leave the darkness behind. You're my light, Ella. You always have been. I was crying now. Happy tears, overwhelming tears. Yes, I said. Yes, of course, yes. He slipped the ring on my finger and we stayed in bed for hours. Planning, dreaming, imagining a future that seemed impossible just months ago. Small wedding, I said. Just people we love. Agreed. Though in my world that's still a lot of people. We'll figure it out. We always do. Planning a wedding when you're engaged to a man transitioning out of organized crime is complicated. Guest lists become security concerns. Venues need vetting. Every detail requires consideration of safety. But we were making it work. The date was set, 6 months away. Enough time to plan, to prepare, to ensure Dominic could take another step back from his old life before we started our new one together. Then 3 months before the wedding, Viktor Sokolov was found dead. The news hit like a bomb. Not just that he was dead, but how, assassinated in his own home, professional hit, no witnesses. The kind of death that sent shockwaves through the entire underworld. Dominic got the call at 3 a.m. I woke to find him on the phone, his voice tense. When? How many men? I see. Increased security everywhere. Now. He hung up, sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. Victor's dead, he said. What? How? Someone killed him. Someone bold enough, organized enough to get through his security and take him out in his own home. Do they know who? Not yet. But everyone's going to assume it was me. That I waited for the right moment and took revenge for the warehouse incident. But you didn't. It doesn't matter if I didn't. What matters is what people believe. And right now Victor's organization is going to believe I'm responsible. Which means war. War. They'll come after me. After my businesses. After anyone close to me. He turned to look at me. After you. The next few weeks were a nightmare. Dominic locked down everything. Our home became a fortress. I couldn't go anywhere without a full security detail. The wedding planning stopped as we focused on simple survival. His people worked around the clock trying to find out who really killed Victor. Because if they could prove it wasn't Dominic, maybe they could prevent all-out war. The truth, when it emerged, was almost worse than the mystery. It was Victor's own nephew. A young man named Alexei who'd been impatient, ambitious, wanting to take over the organization. He'd killed his uncle and planned to blame Dominic, using the vendetta as an excuse to unite Victor's people against a common enemy. So what do? I asked Dominic when he told me. We expose him. Show Victor's organization the truth. Let them handle their own betrayer. And if they don't believe you, then we prepare for war. The meeting was arranged on neutral ground. A restaurant owned by a third party, someone respected by all factions. Dominic would present the evidence of Alexei's betrayal to Victor's lieutenants. They would decide what to believe. I should come with you, I said. Absolutely not. Dominic. Oh no. This is too dangerous. If things go wrong, if they don't believe the evidence, it could get violent. I need to know you're safe. And I need to be there. We're partners, remember? For better or worse. He pulled me close and I felt his fear. You're my weakness, remember? The only thing that can be used against me. Then I'm also your strength. The reason you fight. Let me be there. If anything happens, he said finally, if there's even a hint of danger, you run. Promise me. I promise. The restaurant was closed for the evening, just Dominic's people, Victor's people, and neutral mediators. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Dominic presented the evidence methodically. Phone records showing Alexei coordinating with the hitman. Financial transactions. Testimony from someone who'd witnessed the planning. It was thorough, damning, irrefutable. Alexei stood across the room trying to maintain his composure. But I could see the cracks forming. The sweat on his brow. The way his eyes darted toward the exits. This is lies, he said. Fabricated by Castellano to escape justice for my uncle's murder. Then explain these phone calls, Dominic said calmly. Explain the money trail. Explain why your uncle's own security footage shows you meeting with known assassins. You killed him because you were impatient. Because you wanted power now instead of earning it. And you thought you could hide behind a war with me. One of Victor's old lieutenants, a man named Boris who'd served the family for 30 years, stood up. He looked old, tired, and infinitely sad. Alexei, he said in heavily accented English. Is this true? Alexei's mask cracked completely. And then he did something desperate and stupid. He pulled a gun. Everyone moved at once. Dominic's men, Victor's men, everyone reaching for weapons. But Alexei wasn't aiming at Dominic. He was aiming at me. You, he shouted. This is your fault. Victor showed weakness because of you. Let you live. My uncle was a fool and Castellano is a fool, and all because of you. Time seemed to slow down. I saw Dominic moving toward me. Saw multiple guns being drawn. Saw the madness in Alexei's eyes. And I remembered something Dominic had taught me. In a crisis, the person who acts first often survives. I didn't freeze. Didn't wait to be saved. I dropped to the ground as Dominic had trained me to do, putting furniture between me and the threat. The gunshot that rang out wasn't from Alexei's weapon. It was from Boris. Alexei fell. Just crumpled to the ground, the gun clattering from his hand. Boris stood there, weapon still raised, looking at the young man he'd probably known since childhood. You dishonored your uncle, Boris said quietly. You dishonored your family. And you threatened an innocent woman. Victor would be ashamed. He lowered his gun. The restaurant was completely silent except for my harsh breathing and the sound of Dominic reaching me, pulling me up, checking me for injuries. I'm okay, I gasped. I'm okay. He held me so tight I couldn't breathe, his whole body shaking. Boris turned to Dominic. There is no war, he said. Victor's organization apologizes for this situation. The boy was a problem. It is handled. Dominic nodded, still holding me. There is no war, he agreed. We went home that night and Dominic didn't speak. He just held my hand in the car, his grip almost painful, staring out the window. When we got inside, he poured himself a drink. Then another. Then another. Dominic. He almost killed you. His voice was flat. Right in front of me. I almost lost you. But you didn't. I'm fine. This time you're fine. But what about next time? What about the next person who decides you're the way to hurt me? That's the risk we take. No. He spun to face me and I saw something break in his eyes. No, that's the risk I force you to take. I'm the one who brought you into this world. I'm the one who made you a target. I'm the one who's going to get you killed. Stop it. You're not responsible for other people's actions. I'm responsible for keeping you safe. That's my job and I'm failing at it. Every day, Ella, I wake up terrified. Terrified that today will be the day something happens to you. That someone will use you to get to me. That you'll pay the price for my choices, my past, my sins. Then we leave. Walk away completely. Take the money you've made legitimately and go. Where? Where could we go that my enemies won't find us? Where could we hide that someone won't eventually recognize me? This isn't a life you can just walk away from. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands again. And I saw it. The weight he'd been carrying all along. The impossible burden of loving someone while living in darkness. I knelt in front of him, took his hands in mine. Then we fight. We keep fighting until you've transitioned out completely. Until we're free. However long that takes. It could take years. Then it takes years. You could die waiting. I could die crossing the street tomorrow. I could get cancer. I could get hit by a car. Life is risk, Dominic. And I'd rather risk everything being with you than be safe and alone. He looked at me with such devastation. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you have me anyway. He pulled me to him and we stayed like that for a long time. Two people trying to build something beautiful in a world that wanted to destroy it. After that night, something changed. Dominic became more focused, more driven. He worked with a new intensity to transition his businesses, to sever the last ties to the illegal operations. It wasn't easy. Every step forward seemed to create two new complications. People who depended on the old income. Partners who didn't want things to change. Enemies who saw his retreat as weakness to exploit. But slowly, painfully, he made progress. I helped where I could. Used my skills to build legitimate marketing for his businesses. Created online presences that made everything look normal, legal, respectable. Networked with other business owners, creating connections in the real world. We became a team in a different way. Not the mob boss and his girlfriend. Not the criminal and his weakness. But partners building something new from the ashes of something old. The wedding got pushed back. Once, then twice. We agreed it didn't make sense to marry until we were truly free of the old life. Until we could start our marriage without shadows. I want to marry you in daylight, Dominic said one evening. Not in hiding. Not with security checking every guest. In broad daylight with nothing to hide. Then we'll wait until we can. 2 years after that night in the warehouse, we were almost there. Dominic's legal businesses were thriving. The illegal ones had been sold off or shut down. His old associates had either moved on or been provided for in ways that didn't tie them to him. There were still enemies. There would probably always be enemies. But they were distant now. Focused on their own concerns rather than old grudges. And then one morning Dominic woke me up early. "Get dressed," he said. "Nicely. We're going somewhere." "Where?" "You'll see." He drove us into Manhattan to City Hall. And there, with just his most trusted friend Marco and my friend Maya as witnesses, we got married. No big wedding. No security concerns. No guest list vetted for threats. Just us, the people we loved most, and a simple ceremony. When the officiant pronounced us married, when Dominic kissed me with tears in his eyes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pure, uncomplicated joy. "Mrs. Castellano," he murmured against my lips. "Mr. Castellano." We went to breakfast after. A tiny diner that made the best pancakes in the city. Nothing fancy. Nothing expensive. Just the four of us, laughing and celebrating. "So what now?" Maya asked, stealing one of my pancakes. "Normal life. White picket fence." I looked at Dominic and he looked at me. "Normal enough," I said. "With a bit of adventure." "Always a bit of adventure," he agreed. The first year of marriage was an adjustment. We'd been living together, yes, but there was something different about being married. About having made that formal, legal, permanent commitment. Dominic sold the penthouse. Too many memories of the old life. Too much a symbol of who he'd been. We kept the townhouse and bought a small place upstate. A weekend retreat where we could escape the city entirely. He was different now. Lighter somehow. The constant tension that had lived in his shoulders was slowly releasing. He laughed more. Relaxed more. Became more of the man I'd always known he could be. We talked about kids sometimes. Cautiously, because it still felt impossibly vulnerable to bring children into a world that had so recently been dangerous. "Someday," he'd say. "When I'm sure we're really safe. We're as safe as we'll ever be." I know. But I need to be sure. Need to know that my past won't come back to hurt them. I understood. Dominic's capacity to protect was as strong as his capacity to love. They were the same thing, really. My life had transformed completely from that girl who walked into Obsidian 3 years ago. I ran Dominic's legitimate businesses now, building them into something we could both be proud of. I'd found my voice, my strength, my purpose. And I'd found something else. I'd started writing. All those stories I'd been too scared to tell, all those dreams I'd pushed aside, I was finally pursuing them. At night after dinner I'd sit at my laptop and pour out everything. Fiction, yes, but infused with truth. Stories about people trying to escape their past. About love in unlikely places. About choosing courage over safety. Dominic would read them, offer feedback, encourage me. "You're talented," he'd say. "Really talented. You should publish these. Maybe someday. Definitely someday." He was right. I started submitting stories. Got rejections, lots of them. But also some acceptances. Small literary magazines at first, then larger ones. Building something of my own, separate from him but supported by him. We found balance. The thing that had seemed impossible. A normal life after everything we'd been through. was actually happening. But the past doesn't disappear completely. It lingers. Waits. Sometimes comes back when you least expect it. It was a Thursday afternoon, 3 years into our marriage. I was at a coffee shop working on edits for a story. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. Is this Ella Castellano? Yes. Who's this? My name is Agent Sarah Chin. I'm with the FBI. I'd like to meet with you. To talk about your husband. My blood went cold. I don't have anything to say to you. Mrs. Castellano, I'm not investigating your husband. Not exactly. I'm investigating the people he used to work with. We believe he has information that could help us. And we're hoping you might convince him to cooperate. I'm hanging up now. Wait. Please. Just meet with me. One conversation. If you're not interested after that, I'll leave you alone. One conversation. But not alone. I'm bringing a lawyer. Fair enough. I called Dominic immediately. Told him everything. He was quiet for a long moment. The past, he said finally. It never really lets go, does it? What do they want? Information. Names. Details about operations that happened years ago. They want me to testify against people I used to work with. Will you do it? If I do, it puts a target on us again. But if I don't, they might come after me instead. Try to pressure me by threatening you, our life, everything we've built. So what's the answer? I don't know yet. But we'll figure it out. Together. The meeting with Agent Chin happened 3 days later. Dominic, me, and our lawyer sat across from her in a nondescript office building. She was young, professional, and clearly very smart. Mr. Castellano, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Let's be clear, Dominic said. I'm here to listen. Not to agree to anything. Understood. Here's the situation. We're building a case against several individuals involved in organized crime. People you used to work with. We have evidence, but we need someone on the inside to corroborate it. Someone who's been there. Someone credible. And in exchange? Full immunity for any crimes you may have committed during your time in that world. A clean slate. Complete protection for you and your wife. It was tempting. A clean slate. Legal protection. The past erased officially, not just personally. But Dominic shook his head. I appreciate the offer. But testifying would make me a target again. Would put my wife in danger. I've worked too hard to leave that world behind to voluntarily step back into it. Mr. Castellano. I'm out, Agent Chin. Completely out. Have been for years. I run legitimate businesses, pay my taxes, and live a quiet life. I'm not interested in revisiting the past. She looked disappointed but not surprised. I understand. But if you change your mind. I won't. We left. Drove home in silence. That night, Dominic held me close and said, I made the right choice. Right. Yes, I said without hesitation. We're building a future. Not reliving the past. No regrets. Not one. 5 years after I walked into that club. 5 years since I stumbled into a hallway and met a man who changed everything. We're sitting on the porch of our upstate house. It's early autumn, the leaves just starting to turn. Dominic is reading a book. Something about philosophy, because he's been on this kick lately about examining the choices we make and why we make them. I'm working on a novel. My first one. The story of a woman who falls in love with a complicated man and has to decide what she's willing to risk for that love. Fiction, of course. Totally fiction. My phone buzzes. A text from my publisher. Yes, I have a publisher now, asking about my timeline. I send a quick response and set the phone down. Dominic looks over at me. How's it going? Good. I think I'm finally figuring out how to end it. How does it end? I'm not sure yet. Part of me wants to give them a clean, happy ending. But that doesn't feel honest. Life isn't clean. No, he agrees. It's not. But it can still be happy. I look at him. This man who was supposed to be dangerous, forbidden, wrong for me in every way. This man who became my partner, my husband, my home. Are you happy? I ask. He considers the question seriously like he always does. Yes. Surprisingly, completely yes. Are you? Yes. Even with everything? All the danger, the fear, the complications. Especially because of all that. Because we fought for this. Because it wasn't easy or simple or safe. Because we chose each other every single day, even when it was terrifying. He sets his book down, moves to sit beside me. I think about that night sometimes. In the warehouse. When you walked in with a gun and told Victor that love wasn't weakness. I can't believe I did that. I was insane. You were brave. And you were right. Love isn't weakness. It's the only thing that made me strong enough to leave the darkness. To become someone worthy of you. You were always worthy. That's kind of you. And completely false. But I'm working on it. Every day, I'm working on being the man you see when you look at me. I lean against him and we sit in comfortable silence. The kind of silence that only comes after years of knowing someone. Of building a life together. Do you ever regret it? He asks after a while. Saying yes that first time? Coming to dinner with me? Not once. Do you regret pursuing me? My only regret is that I didn't meet you sooner. When I was already clean. When I could have offered you something uncomplicated. Complicated is more interesting. You would say that. A car drives by on the road below. Normal people living normal lives with normal problems. Part of me used to envy that. The simplicity of ordinary love. But I don't anymore. Because extraordinary love, the kind that's tested and challenged and forced to prove itself, that's what changes you. That's what makes you grow into someone you never knew you could be. Before Dominic, I was safe. Careful. Small in all the ways that mattered. I had a nice life, sure, but it was a life that fit comfortably within boundaries I never thought to question. He didn't just expand those boundaries. He obliterated them. Forced me to confront who I really was underneath the fear and the caution. Forced me to decide what I was willing to fight for. And I discovered that I was braver than I knew. Stronger than I believed. More capable of love than I'd ever imagined. What are you thinking? Dominic asks, sensing my mood shift. I'm thinking that you saved me. I think we saved each other. Maybe that's the truth. Maybe that's what love is. Two people drowning separately who figure out how to swim by holding on to each other.